The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday, October 8th. Hope everybody is having a fantastic week. All right, I just actually got off a interview with Dave Rubin. Haven't been on Dave Rubin's show in several years, and I think ideologically we've drifted apart quite a bit. Some of that came out in the interview. Quite a bit of it came out in the interview. It'll be interesting. So that'll probably drop late in the month. Probably, I think he said October 28th. So towards the end of the month, you'll be able to see that interview. I hope you check it out and tune in, comment, and do all the things that need to be done in order to elevate it and have him invite me back. All right. Let's see. We have, let's just jump in. Let's just jump in with our news for today. Before we get to the Charlie Kirk story in Israel, I do want to just give an update. I mean, these negotiations are happening in Egypt right now, and I think I was pretty negative about them yesterday, but reports coming out of the negotiating are fairly positive, in a sense that Israel, there is optimistic. They seem to be optimistic, cautiously optimistic, that there will be a deal done this week, that hostages will be released next week, that Israel will not retreat from the entire Gaza Strip. It will maintain control over 50% of it. It will basically have encircled all of the places where Hamas will still be around. Who knows? Maybe this something good will come of this deal. After all, at the very least, let's hope that the 20 live hostages are released, and then after that, we can quibble about the rest. But if they're released, of course, Israel will also be releasing hundreds of terrorists. But at least they will get their people back, and it sounds like not give up too much of a strategic position in Gaza as the rest of the deal is implemented. The disarming of Hamas and the imposition of an interim administration, plus the entry of an some kind of international force. There's never been in the Middle East an international peacekeeping force that has been very effective that I can think of. Can't think of any. The ones in southern Lebanon have been pathetic. Ones in the Sinai Desert have been pathetic. So I'm not sure how good this international peacekeeping force will be, but we'll give it a chance. We'll see how it develops. We'll see what happens. But it does look like people expressing themselves positively coming out of the first day of negotiations. All the who's who in the Middle East is down there, right? You've got senior people from Turkey and Qatar Prime Minister, and you've got UAE people. You've got, of course, Americans. You've got the Israelis. You've got the Hamas. You've got Egyptians, and they are putting out the word. We'll see how it all goes. Let's see. All right. There's this news story about Charlie Kirk, and that Candace Owen has made a big deal about. And Candace, as much as I keep showing you clips where she's like nuts and completely insane and completely a wacko, people, massive numbers of people are following her, and she is incredibly influential, and people pay attention to what she says, and it's like everybody's like, oh, Candace says, but as if she's a legitimate voice. But so anyway, Candace has been on this thing about Charlie Kirk was really killed not by this kid that they arrested, but he was really killed by the Israelis, and he was killed by the Israelis because Charlie was pivoting a Turning Point USA away from Israel. He was becoming more anti-Israel, and that's why the Israelis had him killed. or the Jews in America had him killed, or somebody like that had him killed. Anyway, that's the story Candace is pitching. And the other day, I guess the day before yesterday, she had text messages from Charlie. Because everybody's saying, look, but Charlie was unbelievably pro-Israel, and they brought us this letter he wrote to Netanyahu, and they made a big deal out of how pro-Israel Charlie Kirk really was. And so she has this text message that somebody gave her a text conversation between a number of different people and Charlie about the fact that Charlie had just lost, I guess, a $2 million donation from a Jewish donor who was insisting that Charlie Kirk disinvite Tucker Carlson from the Turning Point USA conference, and insisting that Charlie condemn kind of the anti-Semitism of Tucker Carlson. And basically Charlie Kirk was saying, no, I won't do it, and I'm not going to do it. And he was suggesting that he was going to be less pro-Israel in the future, that he was stepping back, that all this pressure was ridiculous, and so on. Initially, when she came out of this, a lot of people said, oh, fake, this is all made up. But Turning Point USA has actually confirmed that these text messages are actually real, and that Charlie Kirk indeed did say all this. He did lose the contribution from the Jewish donor, and was indeed moving to distance himself somewhat from the kind of pro-Israel perspective, lobby, whatever you want to call them. No, it's a bit of a far reach to go from there to the Mossad killed him with zero evidence. But Owen Candace Owen will take whatever victory she can get, and she will pat herself on the shoulder and show, see, I was right. But here's the interesting thing, I think, about all of this, and that is, this shows, I think, the extent to which Charlie was corrupt by the notion of a big tent, and this is true of the right more broadly. The fact is that, in spite of the fact that Tucker Carlson is nuts, crazy, and conspiratorial, and clearly anti-Semitic, and flirting with Holocaust denial and pro-Nazi sympathies and all of this stuff, and Candace is even beyond that. In spite of all of that, the reality is that the American right, has not, flushed them out, has not rejected them, has not turned their back on them. That they have big enough audiences and enough support within the American right, that leading figures in the American right, including Charlie Kirk and the other people who appeared on stage at the Turning Point USA conference, did not feel embarrassed or did not feel like it was problematic for them to be sanctioning Tucker Carlson. And indeed, many of these people, including many politicians, are happy to go on Tucker Carlson's show and use his platform. I mean, maybe a little bit more reluctant with Candace Owen, but even Candace Owen is not being shunned. They are part of the right. They are part of this movement. And that should tell you what you need to know about the right. And a lot of them will say, yeah, I disagree with Tucker Carlson. Yeah, he's turned anti-Semitic. It's inappropriate. It's not good. But I'm not gonna say anything negative about him. I'm not gonna go after him, and I'm not gonna deplatform him, and I'm not gonna not go on his platform, and I'm not gonna do anything about it. I'm gonna sanction him. And when you sanction somebody who's become a monster like Tucker Carlson, you are responsible for the consequence of that, for the consequence of promoting this kind of ideology and the direction the right has taken as a consequence of that. So the modern right, the MAGA right, but it's I think broader than MAGA, completely embraces the Tucker Carlsons of the world. They embrace the Candace Owens of the world. anti-Semitism is just part of their agenda. And yeah, well, okay, some on the right will distance themselves, don't want to be associated too much, but not so much as to deplatform them or reject them. They want the big umbrella. They want the big tent. And from my perspective, when evaluating the right, when evaluating a Turning Point, and part of the evaluation is who do they invite to speak? Who are the people who speak at their conferences? Who are the people who are part of their big tent? And given that Tucker Carlson is part of that tent, one has to evaluate and one should judge, right? I'm big on judging. Judge. I'm very judgmental. You should be very judgmental. It's your life, your values, your future. And the right is really, really, really bad. And I'm glad that I don't have a lot of people on my chat anymore saying, Yaron, we need to be friends with the right. We need to be friendly with these people. We need to associate with them. We need all this stuff. No, we don't. We're different. We don't associate with anti-Semitic, freaks who think demons are scratching them in the middle of the night, or who demons invented nuclear weapons. I think Tucker Carlson believes that. We don't associate with complete nutcases. Have nothing to do with them. I don't want to be in that tent. Talk about big tents. I just noticed a photo on X, on Twitter, of Dave Smith, libertarian Dave Smith, meeting with Nick Fuentes. There's another great meeting of the minds, or the lack of. And this is exactly it, right? This is exactly who you'd expect to be teaming up. The anti-Semitic, anti-thinking, anti-mind wing of, the right, call them the right. And anybody I represent at least, this show, not part of that. Not part of that. We're not part of that, those tents. We're not part of any of those. Oh, I like that. Z Racer calls it meeting of the mindless. That's good. Meeting of the mindless. That's good. So we don't belong to that tent. We don't want to be under that umbrella. I'd rather stay small and principled. Small and independent. Small and not sanction evil. Not sanction evil. Because the reality is, I understand enough of objectivism, enough of reality, enough of life to know that the only party that benefits from associating with evil is evil. The only party that benefits from associating with the mindless are the mindless. The only people who benefit from associating with the soulless are the soulless. We benefit nothing. We only lose. So, yeah, we're small. Yep, we don't have that much influence. But associating with those creeps wouldn't give us influence anyway. So, yep, here we are. Anyway, yeah. Charlie Kirk would not denounce Tucker Carlson. And more of my disagreements with Charlie Kirk. And the reality of Turning Point USA as a big tent that ultimately is going to have bad outcomes, bad consequences. All right, let's see. So I'll just add this. For years, decades really, I've been telling Israelis, don't count on those evangelicals. Beware. Beware. They're your friends right now, but they might not be in the future. And they can shift on a whim because their whole philosophy is based on whim. Everything they do is based on whim. They're religionists. They're faith-based religionists. They support Israel because they interpret some passage in some text, some ancient text, suggesting this is what they should do. That can shift tomorrow. Israel is much more isolated than it knows because it has a real potential of losing the right, the evangelical right, the religious right. By the way, one other thing that supposedly Charlie was contemplating in his final days was converting to Catholicism. Catholicism being the more intellectual side, if you will, of Christianity. Catholicism giving Christianity more structure and more of an intellectual bent. And so many of the leaders of the new right, are Catholics, and not born Catholics, but converts to Catholicism. It's really interesting. Really, really, really interesting. All right. Yesterday, as we talked about yesterday was the second anniversary of October 7th, of the massacre, the horror of the rape and pillage and everything else. Was yesterday. And one of the most, horrific things that was going on yesterday, literally yesterday, was all the pro-Hamas demonstrations and protests out there. I mean, really stunning and shocking. Not surprising, but shocking. Massive protest in New York City with a huge Palestinian flag, with large numbers of people marching in New York City, not to condemn the rape and the slaughter, but to celebrate it, to show support for perpetrators. I mean, imagine after 2 years after 9/11, you would have marches in New York celebrating pro-Taliban, pro-Al-Qaeda marches, pro the dropping of the Twin Towers. And you had this in New York, you had it at a number of universities. I saw another one outside of King's College, London. This is the place where I was attacked by Antifa and the Palestinians when I spoke there. And they won't let me back on campus. I can't go speak at King's College anymore because somehow I'm at fault for the fact that I was attacked. Anyway, King's College, October 7th. I mean, college students, university students in the West celebrating murder and rape. I mean, this is kind of new. This is kind of new. And I don't know how you even deal with this. There is no will in the West to confront Islam. There's no will in the West to confront these people. I mean, if we dealt with 9/11 properly, supporting Hamas would be an act of treason, because Hamas would be labeled explicitly as an enemy of the United States. But, we never dealt with it properly. Still don't deal with it properly. Still don't identify Hamas as an Islamist organization, as a basically religious organization, as an organization motivated by an Islamist religion. We don't blame Islam for this enough. There was a poll, a Harvard-Harris poll that came out today. It shows that half of Gen Z in the United States, half of Gen Z in the United States support Hamas over Israel. 40% of millennials support Hamas over Israel. Almost all of them, young people, oppose the peace plan. Not because it's Israel will have to compromise too much, believe me, not for that reason. A huge number of Gen Z and millennials oppose Hamas releasing the hostages. I mean, think of the inhumanity of just the sheer evil of these people. This is true, by the way, in Canada as well. I haven't seen polls in Europe, but I suspect it's not that different in Europe as well. I mean, this is really disgusting. Half of students at our universities are Hamas supporters. And having seen the videos coming out of October 7th, because you can't avoid them, they're everywhere online, they're still Hamas supporters. Talk about nihilism. Now, it is true that most voters continue to support Israel over Hamas and think Hamas should release the hostages. That's because most people are, non-Gen Zers and millennials, or non-Gen Zers, but, almost half of them. It's pretty scary. It's pretty scary. All right. So that's where we are in terms of October 7th and in terms of Israel. All right. I want to say something about illegal immigrants and ICE and all of this. I mean, I get a lot of people saying, so you're in favor of illegal immigration? You're in favor of not deporting them? And, surprised. And I'm in favor of anybody who comes to this country and works. I am in favor of people being left alone if they are not criminals. I believe in the government staying away from businesses and the business of telling businesses who they should employ and who they shouldn't. I don't care if you're here illegally. I don't consider immigration law that important. It's, okay, a law, you broke it, okay, slap on the wrist. Big deal. I often say I'm an illegal driver. I break the law because I speed. I sometimes even park in places where you're not supposed to park. And okay, I accept the fact that if a cop finds me, and they often do, I'll get a fine and I'll get the slap on the wrist. Immigration law is not a law where there's a victim. If you violate the law, you haven't violated anybody's rights. I don't get excited about laws where there's no victim. Laws should be to protect rights. If rights are not being violated, why do you care? I don't care if you cross the border illegally. Now, if you're a gang member, go to jail, throw away the key. If you're committing, crimes where there are victims, where rights are being violated, throw them in jail or deport them or whatever. Deport them to Antarctica, as far as I'm concerned. Throw away the key. But if you cross the border because you're trying to make a better life for yourself and your family and your kids and then, there's a sense in which you're a hero. What is more noble? What is more courageous than taking on real risk and being willing to go against the crowd in order to make your life better, in order to improve your life, to improve the opportunities. Remember, opportunities for your kids. So these are not bad guys. They're not bad people. They're now all criminals that are rounded up and put in detention facilities. And then many of them deported back to the hellholes from which they came, which is a massive injustice. Massive injustice. So, yeah, I'm much more on the side of the illegal immigrants than I am on ICE. Who are these ICE thugs? They're government cops, emboldened by a police state to go roam around looking for suspicious people who might be here illegally, because none of us wear our illegal badge on our forehead. I mean, I just saw a senior person at ICE saying, yeah, we look for things like, are you nervous around, ICE officers? When you're driving and you see an ICE vehicle, does your grip on the steering wheel get really tight? Do you go white? Do you sweat? Are you afraid? And that's enough. That is enough for them to stop you. Sometimes to break your window and drag you out of your car. I mean, that's not the rule of law. That is a disgrace. That is giving government, aren't we believers in limited government and government that has few powers? That is giving government so much power. The power to stop anybody who they think looks suspicious. Who gets nervous around cops? I mean, I would get nervous around ICE. They're fully armed. They look intimidating. They're big guys. They're wearing masks. I don't like being around people who are wearing masks, particularly if they've got guns. So, yeah, I think ICE is the enemy, not our friends. I am anti-police state. I'm anti-giving the police huge amount of power, for example, to stop anybody they feel is suspicious. I mean, want to go after gang members, want to go after criminals, go for it. Even then, you need some reasonable reason to search, to seize, to arrest, to interrogate. I mean, typically, cops have warrants. They can't just drag you away. I mean, I don't understand what country we live in, where a van, an unmarked van can stop and people can jump out of the van and drag you into the van and shoo you away. Flash some badges. I mean, that's not America. That's not a country of the rule of law. So, reasonable suspicion? There is no such thing. Get a warrant. So, I mean, if they want, they can find everybody. They want to go after people who work. Find everybody who's using a fake Social Security number and track him down and arrest him. But that's not what they're doing. They're just going into workplaces and assuming. I mean, the extent to which what is going on in American streets today in Portland and Chicago and LA and other places, the evil that ICE represents is hard for me to articulate the extent to which it is evil, it is wrong, it is bad. And I'm not even talking about the American citizens that they accidentally kidnap, or the legal residents, the legal immigrants that they accidentally kidnap. Just the whole notion of these roaming bands of police. And again, I do not accept do not accept, and I don't care the threats that they get, I do not accept that in a civilized country, police should ever wear masks. The face of law enforcement should always be visible. So, anyway, that's my position on ICE. I just wanted to make sure nobody was confused. And my position on illegal immigrants, as if I haven't said enough over the many, many years I've talked about this, about it. But there are a lot of new people. I want it to be clear. I don't resent illegal immigrants. Don't have any problem with illegal immigrants. If they're not criminals, welcome. Now, Trump, of course, in order to protect his precious ICE, because they can't protect themselves, obviously, wants to send in the military, the National Guard, in order to do that. We now have Texas National Guards in Illinois, and as well as nationalizing the Illinois National Guard and then deploying it to the streets of Chicago. Again, this is not, they're not there to stop crime. They're there to protect ICE from being harassed by people who don't like them. So we're sending National Guard from one state into a different state against the wishes of the governor of the state? Something very wrong about all of that. Very wrong. I mean, pitting states against states, I mean, it really is, again, un-American, despicable, against federalism, the whole idea of federalism. It really is bad. And then, you know, Pritzker, who's the governor of Illinois, and Johnson, who's the mayor, and I have no sympathy for Mayor Johnson, who is a nutty, leftist, horrible, evil bastard who you know, just is making Chicago worse and worse. And of course, Pritzker is just a standard corrupt Illinois governor. He might not be as corrupt as previous one because he's already rich. He's corrupt intellectually for sure. So I have no sympathy for either one of these guys. But there is this thing, they don't want National Guard in this state. So Trump has suggested they should both go to jail. They should both be in jail. That's the rhetoric. You know, and this is the elevation and the you know, constant playing on this theme, which is we need to arrest our political enemies. We need to put them down. We need to shut them off. This is like a war. You know, in Texas, the Attorney General in Texas has just released a letter. He says, I'm launching undercover operations to infiltrate and uproot leftist terrorist cells in Texas. Leftist political terrorism is a clear and present danger. There can be no compromise with those who want us dead. Now, who are these leftist terror cells? I mean, a leftist killed Charlie Kirk, and I think it's highly likely that the guy who killed Charlie Kirk was motivated by a leftist ideology. But was he part of a leftist terror cell? We've seen no evidence of that, no rumors of that, no leaked info on that. You'd think that if there was such a thing, it would be all over the place. The rhetoric on the Republican side, they're going to war. And that's what they want. They want to go to war. They want to go to war with the left. And, you know, the existence of leftist violent terror cells, I mean, Antifa exists. I know because they attacked me, so I know they exist. So the story that the left has, there's no such thing as Antifa, is BS. But Antifa is primarily in university towns. It's primarily focused on universities. It's mostly pretty much amateur hour. These are not sophisticated terrorist cells. To the extent that they're violent, they should be shut down. And they should suffer the consequence of engaging in violence. But my suspicion is that Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, is much more likely to use all this to go after his political opponents, whoever they may be, and to shut them down. And generally what we're seeing is a general attitude among the right now to try to silence their political opposition, intimidate them, marginalize them, and silence them. So, not engage in actually finding criminals, people who are going to use violence, political violence, but actually shutting them down because they have opinions you don't like, which is what all this is. I mean, political violence right now in the United States is a graph out there is down. It's not that high. Certainly nowhere near where it was in the 70s. Up until this year, up until 2025, is dominated by right-wing violence. This year is dominated by the left-wing violence, but there's not that much of it. And yet, the right is flipping out and behaving like what they really want to do is shut down political opposition. Not violence, not terror cells, real terror cells. I mean, did they do this with the Islamists who really had terror cells? Where were they in those days? Now they're looking for cells that don't exist. So yeah, there's an ideological battle in America, and there's a lot of really evil people on the left on the ideological battle. And what the right wants to do is skip over the ideological battle part of it and just go right for their jugular. Just go right after them. And they don't have to engage in political violence. They can just engage in state violence against their opposition. And so many will cheer them on because, hey, as long as it's against the left, we're all for it. So we talked about CBS, Barry Weiss, and the Free Press being bought by Paramount and being integrated into CBS, and of course Barry Weiss is going to take this leadership position within the news organization at CBS. Well, you can imagine that the people at CBS are not very happy. I mean, here they are in the mainstream media positions. They've been leftist their entire lives. The network has been leftist for decades and decades and decades. I don't think it's ever been non-leftist. And suddenly, new ownership that, by the way, supposedly promised them no real big changes, motivated by politics, they say. And now suddenly they have Barry Weiss, who they consider, crazily enough, somebody way on the right, as their boss, clearly coming in with an agenda. She had 10 points. And they are pissed off. They are very upset. They are very upset. Right? They're complaining that Barry has zero news experience. You know, Free Press, she built something out of nothing. She created that experience. They are, you know, they're accusing her of being somebody who puts out propaganda. Yeah, talk about who puts out propaganda. Yeah, I mean, the people over there are not taking this lightly. They are freaking out. They're upset. it'll be interesting to see how many people actually ultimately leave the network. Right? I mean, part of this that's going to affect them immediately is Barry is pro-Israel. You know, most of these leftist networks are pro-Palestinian, and their coverage reflects that. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of impact she has on the coverage of the Middle East at CBS. And then I expect that if they don't quit en masse, there will be significant layoffs at CBS. I mean, the status quo is gone. Things are being shaken up. This is not going to hold. You know, CBS staff are worried about credibility. They have no credibility, at least not by anybody objective. I hope they maintain their reporting capabilities and that Barry beefs that up. But remember, Barry Weiss is, you know, probably on most issues, center left, maybe some issues center right, but she's not a crazy right wing on anything. But they are so intolerant, the left is at the mainstream media, that a Barry Weiss represents a threat to everything they stand for. They're flipping out. This is good. I like it. I like them flipping out. All right, let's talk a little bit about economics. We're living through some really weird times. It's really, if you look at financial markets, it is very strange. I mean, gold just crossed $4,000 an ounce for the first time ever. Why? Why are people willing to buy gold at over $4,000 an ounce? I mean, it's not because of inflation. Gold has gone up way more than inflation over the last few years and certainly over the last 9 months. Way more than inflation. Now, supposedly a lot of central banks are buying gold instead of buying dollars. And indeed, the value of the dollar has gone down, which is, if you remember, the opposite of what typically happens when you raise tariffs. When you raise tariffs, the value of your currency usually goes up. So the dollar has collapsed. Since Trump got elected, the dollar's down more than 10%. That's huge. And by the way, that's everything imported being more expensive for you, whether you have tariffs or not. Immediately more expensive by 10% because your dollars are buying less. So the dollar's gone down. That's part of it. But the dollar's gone down by 10% versus other currencies. But gold is up 52%. 52%. Why? Part of it's the dollar, part of it's inflation. Those two are related. But what else is going on? And this is where it gets really bizarre. Because I've always said gold is really the hedge against the end of the world. But if you look at the stock market, it doesn't look like the stock market believes there's the end of the world. Stock market's doing great. And, you know, it's up, what, 15% this year, the S&P 500? It was up 25% last year. It was up 25% the year before that. I mean, the stock market is doing phenomenally well. So what is gold protecting us against? The dollar's not collapsing, not yet. Gold is a leading indicator of the dollar collapsing, a leading indicator of massive inflation, 52%. And why would the dollar collapse? And if the dollar collapses, how's the stock market so high? That doesn't make any sense. Inflation is much higher than reports. Right? No, I don't think inflation is high. The reports on inflation is pretty accurate. So I don't think the inflation numbers are wacky. I think the dollar's down because people don't want to hold dollars out there in the world because they don't trust this administration. They have lost their appetite to invest in the United States. They don't want to buy American U.S. government bonds because the government is out of control in terms of debt, and people don't trust they do not trust this administration. AI productivity gains they don't exist yet. A lot of promise, but no productivity gains. And AI productivity gains would suggest a drop in the price of gold, not an increase in the price of gold. The dollar should become more valuable if productivity in the United States because of AI skyrockets. So look, it's hard to explain markets. Markets do what they do, and it's hard to explain investor behavior. But here's the reality, I think, of what I think is going on. People are worried about the global economy. They're worried about the U.S. economy. And they're expressing that worry by buying gold. Gold is, the ultimate hedge against end of the world, as I've said many times. It protects you against inflation, but that's already priced. It protects you against real chaos. And there's real possibility of real chaos. I mean, we don't know what the Chinese are planning for Taiwan and when that might happen and what the U.S. might respond. We don't know what Putin might do as he gets more desperate and as he gets more cornered. We don't know what Trump is going to do in the Western Hemisphere and to what extent, his ongoing damaging of the U.S. economy will continue. People don't know, so they're buying gold as protection. And they're willing to pay a lot of money for gold because they don't think things are getting better. If anything, they expect things to get worse. At the same time, people do not want to hold dollars. They don't want to buy U.S.-denominated debt in particular. So a lot of the money they would have used to buy dollars and buy U.S. debt, they're buying gold instead. And the dollar is going down. And the reality is that the dollar won't collapse because there's no alternative currency to buy instead of the dollar. That is, what do you use if you don't use the dollar? Are you going to use euro? Do you really trust the European Central Bank? Are you going to use the yuan? Do you trust the Chinese? What are you going to use if not the dollar? So the dollar would go down more if there was an alternative, but there's no alternative. Now, why is the stock market up? The stock market's up because the companies in the stock market, particularly tech companies right now, are reporting phenomenal earnings and amazing upside potential because of AI. At the same time, everybody realizes that AI is a massive bubble, that this is not sustainable. And it's not clear that the investment in AI that is being done today, the trillions of dollars flowing into AI, it's not clear that they will ever earn a return on that money. It's like the laying of the fiber optics in the 1980s and 1990s, particularly 90s. It's like the huge internet bubble. Good things will come of it, but we don't know who are the winners or who are the losers. There will be a day of reckoning, even in the stock market, because of this AI bubble. When it happens, how it happens, what triggers it, I don't know. But it's coming. And some people are taking defensive positions by buying gold. And remember, while the U.S. economy is not doing well, job creation is non-existent. The manufacturing sector in the United States is shrunk now 7 months in a row. I mean, the United States economy is not doing well, and Trump is doing all in his power to keep it that way. I mean, not intentionally, of course, but his policies are destructive to U.S. economic growth. Stock market, though, represents the best. the biggest. And it also represents the most protected. The companies that have sucked up to Trump and are going to achieve protection from him. That's what the S&P is made up of. So you've got a small subsection of the U.S. economy. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting where interest rates go. It's going to be interesting how far the dollar drops, how high gold goes up, and what actually happens to the stock market and to U.S. companies under the Trump administration. But it's not good that gold is at 4,000. I mean, unless you own gold, which then it's good for you, but it's not good. It's a sign of real fear, real instability, real distrust of the existing economic system and the way it's functioning and the way it's structured. This should not be celebrated. It should be a time for it's a warning sign. It's a real warning. Bitcoin, by the way, is up as well, 125,000. People are just looking for somewhere to put their money. And there's plenty of money. That's the other thing. There is plenty of money out there. Plenty of money. I think banks are reducing their reserves at the Fed. Money is circulating. Money is moving. We'll see what the price inflation numbers are. But money is flowing into gold, into Bitcoin, into the stock market. Who knows where else? But we're in for a bumpy ride. Bumpy ride. All right. This is an interesting story. We've talked a lot about corruption and the corruption of this administration and how it plays out. I've talked about Freddie and Fannie. Freddie and Fannie are the big buyers of mortgages. They restructure the mortgages and they sell them, repackaged mortgages. These are two companies that basically went bankrupt during the 08-09. They've always been government-sponsored entities. They've always had the protection of the U.S. government. They've always been backed by taxpayers. And they've been in government receivership since 2008. For a long time, the idea was they'd be broken up, they'd be closed down, they'd be broken up and lots of small companies would be spun off. But nothing has happened. They're sitting there and they're bigger now than they've ever been. And they are responsible for more of the mortgage market today than they've ever have. These are really, really, really bad institutions because they've got perverse incentives. They're pseudo-governmental. They're a good example of what happens when the government takes a position, either by guaranteeing your debt or by taking on equity position. Anyway, the government has decided, the Trump administration has decided not to break them up, not to shut them down, but to take them public, as is, maybe even with an explicit government guarantee. And the consequence of that is these could be some of the biggest IPOs in history, ever, initial public offering. Well, all the banks want a piece. They want to represent. They want to make the deal. So what you've got right now is Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase and Morgan Stanley and Wells Fargo, Citibank, Bank of America, all going to the White House and courting Trump and others, Besant, and people in the housing, Federal Housing Finance Agency and Secretary Lutnick, trying to get the business. Trying to get the business. So instead of shutting these down or breaking them up and taking public small entities, these two massive companies are going to go public. It was bad when they were public in the past. It was horrific. And by the way, they could never get their books in order. In the early 2000s, they couldn't even produce an audited financial statement of Fannie Mae. I mean, this is Dodd-Frank's legacy with these monstrous organizations. They were huge lobbyists, huge, massive lobbyists. Real corruption in Washington, D.C. for decades. And now they want to resurrect them, make them more powerful, bigger than ever. The IPOs are expected to value the combined company, Freddie and Fannie, at $500 billion, and raise at the IPO, at the initial public offering, $30 billion. I mean, this is absurd and ridiculous. And again, we're just begging for another financial crisis, just begging for it. Begging. Again, these are two entities that went bankrupt, but were never shut down. They are being under government receivership, government management since then. Government bailout. They've been bailed out. And now an IPO, $500 billion. And because the government is doing it, because it goes from government receivership, they should have filed for bankruptcy. They should have shut them down and sold all their assets. And let the private markets compete for mortgages. We're going to create the Great American Mortgage Corporation. You know, and massive, this resulted from a massive bailout. By the way, the U.S. Has warrants to purchase about 80% of the common stock when they go public. So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, in 2008, 2009, it seemed like there was a real consensus among politicians, economists, bankers, everybody, that Freddie and Fannie need to go. They need to be eliminated. They need to be shut down. They need to be spun off. And instead, we're just recreating them so that we can have another financial crisis and bail them out again. Just nutty. Talk about nutty. Soybean farmers, I don't know if you know any soybean farmers. Soybean farmers are very unhappy. Trump's trade war has basically destroyed their business. They typically sell many of the soybeans to China. China's not buying soybeans from U.S. farmers. Just zero. Now, because of tariffs, soybean farmers have dramatically increased costs, higher fertilizer costs, higher metal costs, higher equipment costs. And at the same time, the tariffs have eviscerated their market. They can't sell them. And this is a massive Trump constituency. And yet, they're being left out without a market. And now some of the soybeans that they're not selling to China, they'll sell elsewhere. The United States is helping them, and they'll find other markets, and they'll figure it out. But it's going to be very difficult for them to make a profit given their increased costs and the ongoing uncertainty about the markets. I mean, in a normal year, China would have already booked U.S. soybeans from the crop that's just been harvested, but they haven't. So what happens next year? And again, where do these soybeans get shipped? So Trump has really made a complete disaster of this. The farm industry is in real panic. And again, this is a heartland. This is Trump country. So I mean, the solution is, of course, bailouts. And what you're going to see is massive bailouts. Now, the real solution ultimately is they should be planting a lot less soybean and a lot less corn, We should stop subsidizing it. We should stop, providing, huge benefits to these farmers to plant stuff that is not really needed. But that won't happen. They'll just keep bailing them out, just giving them more money. And so Trump is now saying that he can take the money coming in from tariffs and give it to farmers, which is fascinating because, he doesn't really have the constitutional authority to put on tariffs. And now he's adding constitutional authority to take the income and kind of do whatever the hell he wants with it. Like, the president is not in a position to allocate revenue. Budgeting is Congress's responsibility. But Trump is suggesting that because this is excess revenue, he can do whatever he wants with it. So, yep. Completely unconstitutional, but that is just par for the course. Par for the course. All right. And a lot of people are pissed off because Trump is bailing out, is giving this bailout to Argentina, and then Argentina turned around and sold its soybeans to China. So China's buying soybeans from Argentina instead of from the U.S., and the U.S. at the same time is also bailing them out, and people are pissed off at that. But that's the distortions and perversions of bailouts and tariffs and, Trump policy. Trump has no clue what he's doing when it comes to these kind of economic and international affairs issues. Pretty bad. All right. That, my friends, is the news for October 8th, 2025. All right. So we will turn to the Super Chat now. We've got a few questions, not that many. So please consider asking more questions. We're still like $180 short of our second hour goal. Oh, there's Wes. Wes, haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for the support, Wes. Wes just did a sticker for $50. Thank you for that. So that really ate into our deficit there nicely. So please consider adding to what Wes just did and getting us to the $500 for the second hour. We're already into that second hour. You can do a sticker. You can do a question. Questions are great because you get to shape the show. I get to talk about what you want me to talk about. Any issue you want to bring up, the best way to do it is with a super chat, and particularly if you bring in $20, that is great. Super chat, $20 super chats gets priorities. 50, 100, even better. All right, we have three sponsors at the Yaron Brook Show. The Ayn Rand Institute wants to remind everybody that there is an Atlas Shrugged essay contest. Top prize, $25,000. That's a lot of money. $25,000. You can get more information about the essay contest at aynrand.org/start here. The deadline for submitting the essay is coming up. It's October 30th. There's still time. But go figure out if you qualify. Figure out if you're eligible. And fill out the forms and figure out what the essay needs to be about and write it and get it out there. $25,000. Don't leave that on the table. You got to try. October 30th, deadline. Hendershot Wealth. Hendershot Wealth is a sponsor of the show. They have a product that can reduce your capital gains taxes significantly. If you made a lot of money on NVIDIA or on some of these stocks, but if you sell, you're going to be slammed with this massive capital gains tax bill. They have different products that could help you defer that way into the future or eliminate it completely. So talk to them. Figure that out. The best way is to listen to the interview I did with Robert Hendershot. It's on my YouTube channel on the playlist called Sponsors. And it's an interview with Robert Hendershot. We talk about this. Listen, it's going to be an interesting interview anyway, but you should listen to it. And if the product is one that sounds interesting, then check them out. Hendershot Wealth, Hendershot with 2 T's, hendershotwealth.com/YBS. hendershotwealth.com/YBS. Sign up. And finally, Alex Epstein. Alex Epstein is the world's leading thinker on all things energy, climate change, environmentalism, fossil fuels. And he has a Substack. Incredibly informative. Talking points, how to really think and how to communicate the ideas around freedom and around liberty with regard to issues around energy and climate change and electricity and things like that. Just check it out, alexepstein.substack.com, alexepstein.substack.com. Subscribe. You should be reading Alex. All right, and then I will remind you that you can become a monthly supporter of the Yaron Brook Show, a regular monthly supporter, by going to Patreon, patreon.com. And for $10 a month, you can get the podcast version of this, audio only, with no ads, ad-free, by becoming a $10 a month subscriber on Patreon. But you can also do $2 or $5, and you can also do $500. I definitely need, 10 new contributors at the $500 or $1,000 a month level. That'll be phenomenal, and because again, this show made possible by you guys. There is no show without financial support. I'm not doing this for free. So you guys make it possible for me to do this. And you make it possible with the super chats, with your stickers, with your monthly contributions. So monthly contributions are great because they're predictable. So please consider becoming a monthly supporter of the Yaron Brook Show. All right, stickers again. Wes, thank you again for the $50. Let's see who else did a sticker. Ooh, who was that? Yeah, we got Alan and Paul and Cook. I think that's it. All right. Thank you, guys. Plenty of space for more stickers. We've got 143 people watching right now. $1, $2 per person. A sticker, value for value. You're benefiting, I assume, because you're listening. Otherwise, why would you listen? Trade. Offer a value for the value that you're receiving. All right, David, $100. Thank you, David, for the support. Would you be surprised if MAGA staged a Reichstag incident? Is it possible MAGA wants violence in the streets in order to cancel midterm elections? I don't know if it's to cancel midterm election, but I definitely think MAGA wants violence. And I think they want conflict. They want to stir things up. They want to incite. Because I think that they have a vision of what it's going to take to purify America from the evils of the left. And that is going to have to involve the significant use of state power. They've tried to do it at Harvard and other places, but the real use of state power is going after student organizations and banning them, and it's going after political entities and specific politicians and going after, Trump enemies. And part of that they'll do through lawfare. But part of that is creating situations where there's real conflict and where there's the potential of doing the equivalent of, declaring martial law. Enacting the Insurrection Act. There's no insurrection in the United States. There literally is no insurrection in the United States. The left is not particularly active right now. Most of the action is from the right. And I don't see ICE and some of these other entities going after the Hamas demonstrators. Doesn't seem to be the target. So I don't know who is. It's the political enemies of the Republicans in charge. So they want to steer things up. And part of putting ICE into the streets and putting National Guard into the streets is that they're hoping to provoke. I mean, what Trump really wants is for Portland to burn. If Portland burns, there's an excuse to do more. They want to do more. They want to act. And they want legal cover for the action. And the legal cover will be provided to them if the left is incited to, start really fighting against them. Somebody is going to get shot by ICE, or an ICE agent will get shot. Violence will only escalate the more guns you put into the streets. And out of that will come potentially riots, and then you got National Guard quelching riots, and that chaos, that mayhem, is a great opportunity to, invoke more authoritarian powers. Now, is it normal for federal agents to be assaulted in the streets? Yes, when they're doing horrific things. I mean, I did my spiel on ICE. ICE is a horrific organization. And when they are randomly pulling people off the streets and you're in the vicinity, yes, you should resist. Yes, you should create as much uncertainty for those agents without getting physical and violent so that they feel intimidated before they whisk somebody off the pavement next time. It's not normal to have federal agents in the streets rounding people up. It's not normal to have federal agents in unmasked cars driving around the streets, assaulting people. That is not normal. And we should not accept it as normal. Not accept it as normal. Whether it's legal or illegal, we should not accept it as normal. And interfering without engaging in violence? Absolutely. Civil disobedience without engaging in violence? Absolutely. Absolutely. Let them know that what they're doing is unpopular. Let them know that they're not welcome. And the people violating the real rule of law here is the government. The government, because the law is not just whatever laws they happen to be in the books. The law is the law based on individual rights. And when the laws are fundamentally violating individual rights, then we need to stand up against them. We need to stand up against them. So what ICE is doing is wrong. It is wrong from the perspective of individual rights. It is wrong from the perspective of the rule of law. All right. And if we don't stand up, there's no end to it. They'll keep passing really, really bad laws. They'll keep signing really, really bad executive orders. And they'll violate our rights, left and right. And we will do nothing. We will just sit silently because, hey, it's the law. All right, Remo. Thank you, Remo. 60 euros. Really appreciate it. Should a country ban the possibility for foreign governments and wealth funds to buy stakes in companies that incorporated in its country? It's a really good question, which I hadn't thought about. And I think the answer is yes. I think there should be a ban. I think the ban should be against, a purchase by a governmental entity of a foreign country. And I'd include foreign, what do you call it? Wealth funds, foreign sovereign wealth funds. Against buying stock, against buying land. I mean, the Chinese government should not be owning farmland in the United States. They shouldn't be owning stocks in the United States. Now, I don't mind Chinese companies doing it, and maybe it gets blurry when it comes to a country like China, but the government out and out, I don't think should be. But it's an interesting question, which I've never thought about. But it strikes me that the answer should be yes, it should be banned. I mean, part of what ICE is doing and all of that is to provoke. They want it to escalate. And it's going to escalate. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to escalate. And it's really, really bad. And the fault for the escalation is with the government. David, with gold over 4,000, it's maybe time to finally call Peter Schiff and bring him on the show. Nobody has been as public and right about the debt crisis in gold for over 20 years as he is. Call your old forgotten friend. I don't know how you can say he's been right. Peter Schiff called gold at 4,000 in 2008. The fact that it made it to 4,000 in 2025 doesn't make him right. So I don't understand. I don't understand how if you say the crisis is going to come, it's going to come, it's going to come, it's going to come, it's going to come. You do it for 20 years, and then the crisis finally happens. Somehow you're right. I mean, I really don't get it. Yes, gold has finally done what Peter Schiff has said it would do, but Peter Schiff said it would happen years and years and years ago, decades ago. So he's clearly been wrong in Bitcoin. He's been wrong in the stock market. He's wrong in the US dollar, and has been wrong on the US dollar in the past. Now, I like Peter, and I might have him on, but I don't understand, how he can be wrong for so long. And, if I say stock market is going to go down, I don't know when. No, the stock market's going to go down this year, and it doesn't go down. And next year, it's going to go down this year, and it doesn't go down. And again, it's going to go down this year, and it doesn't go down. Then next one, it's going to go down this year. And then ultimately, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years down the road, it goes down. And you say, wow, Yaron's right about the stock market. No, I'm not. Now, look, Peter's super smart, super articulate. I agree with him on a lot in economics. I'm just disagreeing with you on this particular characterization. I just think it's wrong. I'm looking for objectivity around it. Right? Lyron, are Palestinian supporters of today similar to hippies of the Vietnam era? Both are just reaching against the flawed proponents of the U.S. West, like Trump and Nixon, without examining who they're aligning with. I mean, no, because it's much, much worse now. And the reason it's much, much worse now is because they have nothing at stake today. There's no draft. They're not being shipped to the Middle East to fight a war. The supposed war crimes are not being committed by Americans. So the fact that they're so passionate and so engaged with the Palestinian cause is, and of course, a lot of the demonstrations in Vietnam weren't pro-North Vietnamese. They were against U.S. involvement. And they were right on U.S. involvement. So, no, I think this is much, much worse. It's also, remember, this didn't start with Trump. This started with Biden. I mean, the sit-ins, the campus sit-ins, the demonstrations, those all happened under Biden. So it wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction to a bad, from their perspective, a right-wing president. No, they did it to the Democratic president as well. It is a hatred of the West, but much more elevated in its veracity, in its nihilism than I think the Vietnam War was. So this is that on steroids. Much, much worse. And of course, that was bad enough, what they did back then. But it's much worse now. Andy, ICE are not police. Police arrest people to bring them to court with some level of evidence. ICE specifically drags people without a court process or defiance of court. They're literally masked gangsters for Trump. Well, they're masked gangsters for the federal government. Trump is president, but they're not for Trump. They're masked gangsters for the federal government. And this is not a good precedent in the United States. You might think it's okay for them to be rounding up illegals, but what happens when, the next administration comes about and has masked gunmen, gangsters roaming around arresting some other group? There's no end to it once you unleash the thugs into the streets in the name of, I don't know, in the name of the federal government and its wisdom. We know where that lands up, and it doesn't land up in a good place. So these are armed thugs of the federal government. All right. Andrew, does altruism lead to evasion? I'm thinking about the irrationality surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Yes, I mean, altruism necessitates evasion. You're evading your own interests. You're ignoring, the reality of who's being sacrificed to whom. It's, altruism, by its very nature, tells you to ignore your own nature, to ignore your own interests, to ignore your own life. And, that necessitates evasion. And then once you evade regarding altruism, once you evade according to that, what stops you evading whatever you need to evade? The whole principle is here, they're suffering, they're weak, they're poor, they don't have a state, they don't have this, they don't have that. That is, by definition, wrong according to altruism, and therefore there must be some way to solve the problem, to redress the injustice. And the fact that they're murderers, the fact that they're rapists, the fact that all this, will evade that because they're struggling, because they're poor, because they're weak. And they're being bombed all the time, and children are dying. So everything else becomes irrelevant. Everything else is evaded in the name of the sacrifice. All right, that is all the $20 questions that we have, $20, $50, $100 questions that we have. So just a reminder, we need some more. We need about 6 $20 questions to get to our second hour goal. We've got a few $10 questions here and $5 questions remaining, but I'll be done with those pretty quickly here. So now's the time to step in with some support. Stickers, welcome. Questions, welcome. Value for value trade. And help us make our targets so that, the show is sustainable. Needs to be sustainable. These $250 an hour is what is necessary to sustain the show, given the different sources of support that come in for the show. All right. So if you're listening live now on YouTube, come on over and do a super chat or do a sticker. If you're on Twitter, there's a bunch of people watching on Twitter. Come on over to YouTube and support the show here on YouTube. Remo, my favorite Al Pacino movie. God, see, I don't remember Al Pacino movies. I remember my first Al Pacino movie, which was Dog Day Afternoon. Really liked Dog Day Afternoon. Well, I mean, The Godfather, of course, those are great movies. And Al Pacino's great in those. Scent of a Woman. I like Scent of a Woman. That's a good Al Pacino movie. Heat is another one that I really like. I mean, I hate the movie. The movie's kind of got an evil idea and philosophy, but he's brilliant in it. He's really, really good. Didn't like The Irishman. Serpico. He was good in Serpico. Just looking at Al Pacino movies. Dog Day Afternoon was the first movie I saw with Al Pacino. He was brilliant in it. It's a terrible movie, but he was brilliant in it. Or at least now looking back, at the time, it was super intense. It was really intense. And Justice for All, that was pretty good. Yeah, those are a few that I like. Oh, he's really good in The Merchant of Venice. He plays Shylock in The Merchant of Venice. That's really good. All right. Remo says, generally, I do not like gangster movies, but I do like The Godfather. Godfather movies are great movies. Goodfellas, The Departed, Heat. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good gangster movies. Departed is good. Heat is good. I mean, again, it's got an awful, philosophically, it's really, really bad. But it's a really well-made movie. But the best is The Godfather. The Godfather trilogy is brilliant. All right. Ryan, your new book is urgently needed. Is there anything that can be done to speed up its release? No. No, it needs to be written, finished, and I need to finalize an agent, and then we need a publisher. This takes time. There's no way. There's no shortcuts. And I want a real publisher. I wanted to get the full marketing benefit of a publisher, and I'm hoping to have a real aggressive agent, and there should be, given the timing of the book, given its theme, I'm hoping it'll be kind of a bestseller. We'll see. I don't know who the market is for it, because we're going to piss off everybody. But if you want to ask a question about Al Pacino movies, about any of that, the Super Chat is open. The Super Chat is available. Mike, thank you for the sticker. Really appreciate that. We just need $5 $20 now to get to our target. But I appreciate it, Ryan. There's just no shortcuts when it comes to publishing a book, unfortunately. Maribens, Peter, I love you more than cat loafs and dog blanket burritos. I don't know what that means. I don't want to go there. People are talking about Heat. The thing about Heat is that, like most modern movies, it portrays the bad guy, the gangster, as interesting and cool and successful and happy, and gets the women, and the good guy is basically boring and failure in his personal life, and unhappy, and doesn't know how to have fun, and doesn't get the girl, and just pathetic. And that's Heat, right? The cop is miserable, and divorced and everything, and the evil guy is the happy guy, and that's just an inversion of reality. To make, and it's a perpetuation of a particular view of morality, that virtue leads to unhappiness. Goodness is, it's important to be good, it's important to be virtuous, but you're not going to be happy, you're going to be miserable. And vice is actually the source of happiness. Vice is actually the source of of fun, of joy. Now, this is not unique to Heat, but Heat really drills that home, which I find offensive. Lucinda, your voice sounds a lot better now. Hope you're doing better. Also, anyone remember to send stickers and super chats and reach those goals? Yeah, I mean, we're kind of on and off on the goals. We don't make them as consistently as we used to. It'd be nice if we did. We really should. So we're right now $86 short of the goal. Maybe you can be inspired by Lucinda to get it. I am feeling a little better. God, it's been a week and a half now, and I'm still not completely right, as you can probably tell from my voice. But I'm feeling better. I definitely have more energy, but I still am congested. It hasn't completely opened up. Yeah, it was a bad case, and it's not clearing out. And I'm traveling on Friday. I'm flying to Austin, Texas on Friday. Yeah, frustrating. The fact that I was so sick and that it hasn't really gone away. All right. All right. Let's see. Equal to Reality says, a bit off topic, but what questions could help me decide if I should distance myself from pro-royal or nationalist-minded family members? I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to think about what value do they represent to you? To what extent, are they good for you in the short run and in the long run? What values do you get for them? What is the value of having a relationship? To think of it as positive and not as negative. And then to what extent do they frustrate you? Do they impose costs on you because of their political views? They argue with you constantly. Do they harass you? I mean, what exactly are they doing? So just weigh the positives and the negatives of having a relationship and make a decision based on that. 1 second here. All right, Andrew. Rand once said to Donahue that religion says the body is evil. Donahue responded, yes, it does. When I see that, I think, how can one acknowledge that and go on defending religion? Thoughts? Well, because they really do think it is evil. That is, it's the focal point of desires, and if you act on desires, you can do horrible things, and it is the source of sin. It is the source of the fall. So religion actually holds that the body as as evil, and they can resent it, but they can't ignore that because this is how they've been brought up. This is every sermon. This is exactly what they've been taught, and what it means is they believe that the mind, that morality is there to control their bodily urges, to control their passions, to control the mayhem that the body would create if it was let loose. And they are split. They really have this split, and they live it, and that is the source of the kind of anxiety and fear and self-hatred that so many people exhibit. Neo, I'm bad at math. How is the comparison made when people say October 7th is equivalent to 30 to 40,000 dead during 9/11? Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's Israel has, let's say, a population of 10 million, and they had 1,200 people died. United States has 350 million people. So multiply the 1,200 by 35. 10 million to 350 million is 1,200 to what? To about 40,000 people dying. So just a comparison of the populations versus 3,000 to 4,000 who actually died on 9/11. Imagine if that number was 30,000 or 40,000. Then it would be the same impact on the population as it was in Israel. All right, Equal to Reality says, in case you did not see my other chat, what are some good red flags to write off close family members? What lines that should not be crossed both left and right? Well, I mean, it's hard to tell. I mean, obviously hatred, nihilism, racism, and anti-Semitism are red lines, I think. But you should be in a position to be able to say, I disagree with them when they sound off something really, really bad. And if they exhibit real hostility when you do that and they make it really uncomfortable and unpleasant to be around, then you have to really ask yourself, is it worth being around them? Anne says, thoughts on Dictator from Day One by Rob Tusinski. Rob Tusinski has this book about Trump called Dictator from Day One. And look, when it comes to Trump, I agree with Tusinski. His writings on Trump, to the extent that I've read them, have been right on point. And my guess is, I haven't read the book, is that we agree completely about Trump. But Trump's, authoritarian inclinations and general evil. So I probably would agree with Tusinski's book if I read it, but I haven't read it and don't intend to. Hey, Yaron, have you talked about Sora 2, OpenAI's newest video AI? Also, have you seen Figure One robot can walk and do dishes? Tech is so cool. Yeah, tech is very cool. I just downloaded Sora 2 and trying to play around with it. I don't know exactly how it works and how to make it work. So I'll play around, but I'm sure it's unbelievably cool. Tech is unbelievably cool. I've seen some of the stuff that robots can do. Robots are the future. There's no question about that. Robots are gonna change the world in which we live for the better. They are coming. They're coming. They're coming for you. Beware. All right, Lucinda, have you seen In the Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood? Recently watched it and enjoyed it a lot with my... Is that where he's like a Secret Service agent and he takes a bullet for the president? Yeah, I mean, I really liked that. I enjoyed that movie. That's a long time ago. I'm just looking online. From the 90s, early 90s. Yeah, I enjoyed that movie. It was a good action movie. Good action movie. Thank you, Lucinda. All right, guys, only $34 left to make our goal. It would just be nice to be able to say, another day, another goal met. We didn't miss it today. So help us get to that point. Help us get to that point. Yeah, Clint Eastwood in that movie really is heroic. He's a real hero. All right, Paul. BW, who's BW? Interviewed Barrett. Oh, Barry Weiss. Interviewed Barrett. I like to comment that the Constitution was more than the words, but also the body of people upholding it, but mostly ignored abortion and the perverted Ninth Amendment interpretation. Yeah, I mean, I've just seen bits of it. I haven't seen the full interview. Barrett strikes me as a lot more intelligent than I expected. Sadly, she has a very bad view of abortion, and still, even the better Republicans have a bad view of the Ninth Amendment. But she's better than expected. I'll give her that. She's better than I expected her to be. So it's going to be interesting. This next term of the Supreme Court, where they're going to make a lot of Trump decisions, is going to be super interesting. It's going to be interesting to see whether they have the courage, they have the fortitude, the courage to stand up to Trump and to put him in his place. I mean, I think the tariff is a no-brainer, not constitutional. And there are a number of these issues that are no-brainers, and the question is, will the courts stand up to him and do it? He's going to present it as, you're going to destroy the country if you do. He already is. They're going to have to resist that somehow. All right, Lucinda says, let's reach the goal. All right, we're only $23 away from the goal, so it is reachable. And that was the last question. So anybody want to get us to the goal by doing a $23 sticker or by asking a question, now is the time to do it. All right, we will have a show tomorrow. I'm not sure about the time tomorrow, but I think it's about the same time as today. Maybe it's a little later tomorrow. Let's see. Tomorrow will be at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So tomorrow we'll have a show at 4 p.m. East Coast time. I probably no show on Friday. And we'll see if I can do a show over the weekend. I'm attending a wedding, and there's parties and there's wedding stuff, but we'll try to do something beforehand to get it done. So that is the plan. Definitely be back on Tuesday, but tomorrow there will be a show. All right, we've got Lyron did a $3 sticker. Thank you, Lyron. Lucinda did a 25 euro sticker, so thank you, Lucinda. That got us to the goal. And then Ron did a 60 shekel question. Do you think the current repo market stress and upcoming QE will finally expose the mob bankruptcy of fiat money, pushing a significant number of investors towards gold? P.S. Coming to listen to you in Vienna in November. Cool. No, I don't think so. I don't see why this is it for fiat money. I think it's going to take a lot more than what's happening right now. I also think that, I'm not sure investors should be in gold. Why is gold worth 4,000? If gold became money tomorrow, is 4,000 the level which would be converted into dollars? I don't know, right? So it's not clear to me that gold right now reflects reality any more than any other asset class. I think gold is a speculative asset and is being speculated on. But no, I do not predict the imminent fall and disappearance of fiat monies. I just don't see that happening yet. Thanks, Ron. I really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you in Vienna. Tom says £100 pounds sterling. Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate this. Thank you, Ron. Keep up the great work. Appreciate your analysis. Thank you, Tom. That definitely gets us way beyond the goal. That's great. When are you next in the UK so I can come see you live? Ask Equal to Reality. I'm not going to be in the UK this trip to Europe in October, November. Probably be in UK in either February or March of next year. Early February, March, late February, early March, or otherwise in April. But definitely be there, and I'm trying to arrange events. I might be doing a debate for The Spectator, doing maybe a debate at Oxford for the Hayek Society. So number of things in the works for then. I'm trying to kind of wrap up my schedule for early next year, but that'll probably be the time when I come to the UK. Won't be this trip, unfortunately. Won't be making it this trip. Thank you, Equal to Reality. Andrew says, are you looking to revive Rules for Life or just do some shows consistent with them? I just do some shows consistent with them. I did 20 Rules for Life. I'm not sure what reviving it. But look, here's the point. If anybody has ideas on structuring a Rules for like series of shows, I'm interested. I'm just out of ideas. So if you think about how it should be presented, structure, what should be the umbrella, let me know. I'm open to ideas, whether it's bringing it back, doing it like I did originally, whether it's doing something completely different. Let me know. But those kind of shows, applying objectivism to our lives, I'd like to do at least one a week that way, that's like that. But it would be helpful to get guidance from you guys, what you think would work, given that you've already heard the rules for life, and where you think we should take it next. All right, everybody. I will see you tomorrow, 4 p.m. East Coast time. Thanks. You guys were great, and we blew away the target. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks, Lucinda, for getting at them and poking them and encouraging them. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.